Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Dear all teachers and practitioners, it's Tuesday afternoon of the March 2025 retreat. Also time for questions and share of experience. For Zen, we emphasize the practice. For the learning, we seek out the learning to strengthen our belief in the mind and also to untie and overcome the obstacles created by our karmic habits, attachment and ignorance, etc. So we, when we practice, we want to practice sincerely. So right now, here in the temple, anybody have any questions about the practice or want to share your experience? Feel free to bring it up. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Dear Master, all teachers and practitioners, I have 3 questions. The first question is a practitioner who specialize in reciting the Buddha's name and focus on rebirth in the Pure Land. There are 3 grades. Could you please explain more? So when we talk about reciting the Buddha's name, it's about the Pure Land, the school of Pure Land. And for the rebirth in the Pure Land, there are 3 grades: the upper grade, the middle grade, and the lower grade. And then within each of those grades, there are further subgrades. So totally, we have 9 grades total. So the purpose of all of those grades are still the skillful means. So it doesn't matter which grade it is, once they are reborn in the Pure Land, then they will not regression or again, and then they will continuously to practice when they reborn as a lotus flower in the Pure Land, and then they will follow the Buddha to practice up until they reach enlightenment. So if we talk about the Pure Land school, we have to follow the right principle, that is belief, vow, and practice. So each of the school, each of the method has their own principle. The practitioner should focus on one method. The principle of the Pure Land school is belief, vow, and practice. The first practice is to recite the name of the Buddha. The second practice is to contemplate the Buddha. And the third the third practice is to sorry, I missed the last one. And they do the recitation up until they are able to eradicate the ignorance and attachment. So the recitation of the Buddha's name is different from the patriot Zen. If they recite the Buddha's name in the right principle, they will be reborn in the Pure Land. The second question is a practitioner who practice patriot Zen and raise the Tao to the point where the Tao is consistent, then will that person see his self-nature, or will he reach liberation? Could you explain more about whether he see the self-nature or whether he reach liberation? So those two names, those two nouns, seeing self-nature is equal to liberation. Those are just the different words. So when we talk about seeing self-nature, in Zen, it means to eradicate all ignorance and attachment and to be awakened from the open eye dream. And once they awaken, they know that everything is not real. So once at that point, we say there's nothing to be enlightened, because when we said about awakening, there is still the opposite of delusion. But the doubt will help us sweep away all of the subject and object, all of the things we're seeking. And once we are able to eradicate all of that, we will be able to reach complete enlightenment. So for Zen, this life or this body once we reach enlightenment, at that point we will be able to utilize all of the functions of the self-nature right at that point, versus the Pure Land school. We need to be reborn in a Pure Land and then meet the Buddha at the Pure Land and continue to practice until reaching complete enlightenment. And once they are awakened, it's equal to them drinking water, or whether it's hot or cold, only they can tell. Only the awakened will know the awakened one. But the one who have not awakened, there's no way they will be able to understand the realm of the awakened people. Just like the blind person and the person with good eye, it doesn't matter how we describe to the blind person. The blind person cannot truly experience what the person with good eye experience. So once we liberate from the darkness of ignorance, then we will be able to be clear about everything, and be able to see everything clearly. So that is kind of like an example of the Buddha from the scripture. The third question, I would like to talk about my own experience. When my husband passed away in 2004, I learned about the Pure Land and been practicing it for a while. And then for the past 4 years, I was introduced to our temple and I started practicing. But then from time in time, I start thinking, I've been practicing the Pure Land for so long. Why did I switch? And when I have that thought, I kind of stop Zen. So could you please explain more? This is the karmic habits that the patriarch talked a lot about. When we raise the thought of attachment to things as real, we will lose the practice and we easily go back to the previous method and to the method that we are not familiar with. We tend to feel fearful and want to return back to the old method. And if the environment is not beneficial for us to ask and reach out to the wise teachers, and then we keep being influenced by our karmic habits, and then we start generate a thought of wanting to gain, wanting to seek, wanting to fear, then we feel the challenges and obstacles, and then we want to revert back to the old method, um, to 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 rely on the previous method. Just like the Zen, when we feel like there's nothing for us to hold on to, we feel fearful. Just like Master Lai Hua has an example, for a blind person, if we trap them in a place, in a room, like a restroom, he will feel settled, he will feel peaceful because he familiar with everywhere, he can touch and feel everywhere in the room, right? But then if the person with a good eye take the blind person onto the meditation hall, the blind person will feel very fearful because this place, even though it's very um, a good place, the blind person doesn't feel familiar. He doesn't know where to touch. It feels like such a strange place, and they want to go back to their own room. So the same thing, for us, if we have the wise teachers to point it out to us, to remind us, if we have the sangha to help us, then we can strengthen our belief and continue with the practice. To treat our sickness of ignorance, and once the sickness is over, we will be able to see the compassion of the Buddha and the patriarch, and to believe in the Dharma. So this is about our karmic habits. We have to find a way to be diligent and maintain the practice consistently, and not letting our karmic habits of affliction, ignorance, and attachment to influence us and make us feel fearful. So even not even talking about the indirect method, but even the worldly dharma, we will feel very unsettled, and then we will feel confused and directionless. Thank you, Master. I have another question. One more question. Suddenly I forget. Just like for me, the person who used to recite the Buddha, and now I changed the method to meditation. Did I commit a commit mistake? Our purpose is to reach liberation. So the faster we can reach in liberation, it's the better way for us to pay gratitude to the Buddha. So how could that be wrong? So everything is the skillful means of the Buddha. But if the method is aligned with us, then it will help us better. Just like a student, once he left the elementary school and go into the middle school, he or she have to go with a different teachers, or when they go to the high school or college or even graduation, they will have different teachers. We couldn't say that they betrayed the previous teachers. Their purpose is to reach graduation. Same thing for us. Our purpose is to reach liberation. That's the way to pay gratitude to the Buddha, the patriarch, and all sentient being. And that so that way, there's no way we can make mistake, or we can be blamed. Thank you, Master. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Dear Master, all teachers, and our Dharma friends, there is a co-practitioner asked me if we practice, but we keep the mind that want to know but cannot know in order to be considered to practice. Then she feel like she doesn't have that mind of wanting to know but cannot know. Could you please explain more about this to encourage her? Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. That is very normal. It's because our mind of discrimination and ignorance is too strong, so we cannot see or cannot experience. Or we can say our mind tend to go outside instead of return inward. That's why we say have to believe in the mind and raise the doubt. Those are the basic things. It's because we don't believe in the mind. That's why we make mistake. Our patriot, depending on the capacity of the person, they create different, like skillful means. But we cannot imitate the patriots, because we don't reach enlightenment like them. We are not even allowed, should not even guess their intention either. Just like Master Laiwa said, if we want to resolve the issue of birth and death, the Hua meditation is a wonderful medicine. So when we ask the question, it's like a very flavorless, um, skin of the tree, but we still have to work on it. Master Laiwa keep reminding us to return and ask clearly. When they remind us about birth and death, it's to help us strengthen in the mind. Just like some people, they feel like they ask, but seem like there's no doubt. Ask, but seem like residing, because they feel like they don't know. But then our tendency to want to know, it's always there. Sentient being tend to want to live and fear of death. Any sentient being, all of them are fearful of death. So same thing. Once the not knowing touch the tendency to want to know, then it will generate the doubt. And our patriots see that tendency of the person. That's why they give out a very skillful means to address for each person. Just like but we are not at their level yet, So all of the sayings of the patriot, they still are just skillful means. We have to return and raise the question. Even if it seems like it's just residing, then keep asking, but have to ask, not to residing. And the more we ask, the more we will believe in the mind, and the more we learn from the wise teachers and the more experienced people, and then also apply the teachings of the Buddha and the patriot. then gradually it will help us strengthen our belief in the mind. And always remember, the right view is to transcend attachment, and gradually the practice will generate doubt from weak to strong, from strange to familiar. Master Lai Hua is very compassionate. He detailed every single thing um, um, in his book about the practice of the practitioner, from being very strange to the Hoa Tho at the beginning, you know. But if we keep expose ourselves to the practice, gradually we will become familiar. Just like when we see a stranger, at first we will fearful and don't want to be close, but once we keep seeing that person, say hi and smile at that person, gradually we will forget that they are a stranger and become close. So for us, we have to put aside, illusory thought. Illusory thought, we cannot get rid of them. If we try to get rid of them, we're just gonna make ourselves tired, because those illusory thoughts keep generating over and over without stop. And if we try to get rid of those illusory thoughts, that is also an illusory thought. If we don't try to be its enemy, and once you don't treat those illusory thoughts as enemy, we are moving away from the duality, subject and object. Then gradually those illusory thoughts will fade away. Just like when we move away from the subject, then the object, then the subject will gradually also move away as well. But that all of those examples are given to help encourage us to practice, and the practice will help us. If you have the need to overcome the suffering of birth and death, you have to practice Zen. And Zen is not difficult. It's actually very simple. There's no secret, special secret. As long as you determine to resolve the birth and death issue, then you will be able to practice Zen. But if you are deluded into birth and death, then it will become difficult. So you have to continue to learn so that you can raise the thought of birth and death. So now, whether you feel like there's doubt or not, just keep raise the question. Don't look forward to the result, or don't look forward to whether there's a doubt or not, because that will make you feel tired later on. So be very careful and cautious with your practice. We don't attach to no or yes, but because we have to practice to know where is where. Don't get stuck or don't get trapped in the knowing versus not knowing, but you have to practice, or else if you keep trying to analyze the words, you will run within just knowledge only, and you will be away from the practice. So the doubt is to sweep away all thoughts, all duality, or attachment. But it is not equal nothingness. If the doubt is consistent and continuously, there's no way you will fall into nothingness. Only when you calm every thought and try to reach the quietness, then you will fall into nothingness. Practice Zen is still different from contemplation. Even when we practice without the doubt, it's still considered investigating. But remember, the question is to ask, not to recite. That's why Master Lara said, if you recite a question, it's better to just recite the Buddha's name. So it doesn't matter whether you feel like you have the question, the doubt or not, just keep nourishing it. And once the doubt reaches its final destination, then that's where we want to go, So this is not to accumulate more knowledge. This is just to investigating the mind. But all of these words are still just the skillful means. Thank you so much, Master. Miss Tan, please. The Master and all people, if I ask the question but ask like actually I seem like I just reciting, then can I still get some tranquility at all or reduce any attachment? So when you ask, it seems like reciting, but you still have to ask. You have to practice until the doubt raise. But these are just all about saying, because the doubt cannot be talked about. If we can talk about, it's not the doubt. If we use the doubt to explain, it's very easily for us to fall into the false statement or consciousness. The doubt have to move away from subject and object. If now we make the doubt as like a subject, then it would not be true practice. So right now, even though we still have one ignorant thought, but this thought of doubt will help us go straight back to the source of the ignorance and eradicate ignorance, versus the other ignorant thought that will just plunge us further into samsara. So our Buddha and preacher always advise us to turn inward, not outward, to move away from duality, not to stick to reality. So to maintain the doubt is to contemplate prajna. So now we just need to keep asking. To help with our practice, these Q&A session about our concerns and karmic habits and attachment, it will help us to improve our practice, you know. So, but this discrimination, this wanting to know, it's happened to all beings, you know. Just like us, most of people really want to know, you know. Even the people who have superpower, the heavenly people, they have a lot of power, but still they are still controlled by ignorance. Even the king of the heaven, you know, he knows his next life, after he exhausts all of his blessing, he will become a donkey, but he still cannot able to escape. You know, everything is run by karma and retribution, and that's why the Buddha taught the method of return to the refuge to the king of the heaven. And after he returned to, he take refuge in the three jewels, you know. After um, he was able to shorten the life of him being the donkey, and after he you know, like past that life of a donkey, he was able to become back the king of the heaven pretty soon. That is mentioned in the Nikaya Sutra, where it was advised for the practitioner to take refuge in the three jewels, so they don't get plunged into the lower realms. You know, so we can see that even the intelligence, the smartness of the heaven beings, they still cannot escape samsara because they still controlled by their ignorance and attachment. So our practice, you know, once we eradicate those ignorance and attachment, we will be awakened and control our life. So even if there's no doubt, we still have to practice. If we sincerely want to end birth and death, we have to practice, no matter how hard it is. And eventually, if we make the strongest efforts, eventually we will get the result. I understood your saying. What I want to ask is, I ask the question, but I don't know if I'm reciting or not. I just feel like I feel more calm, less affliction, less attachment, and then I assume that I probably had the doubt, but I don't know if I mistaken, because there's no form, you know. Like on the practice, sometimes there's a lot of effects similar to one another. So if you attach to those, if you cling on to those, you know, calmness state, it's still attachment, and once you attach, you get stuck. So you have to continue to move on. Cannot attach to any stage. So even for the people who reach a very higher realm, where they are able to compose verses, have supernatural superpower, and are able to know multiple past lives, if they don't attach to those realms, then that is a good sign. But if they attach to those experience, then they fall into the wrong path. That's why the Buddha talked about the 50 marrows. They are a lot, you know, attacking our form, our sensation, our mental formation, our perception, you know. all of those effects. But if we attach to any of those effects, then we fall into the wrong path. If like even reciting the mantra, reciting the Buddha's name, they also find calmness as well. But if we're not careful, we can easily fall into the indirect method. So we have to rely on the wise teachers and our Dharma friends. That is to apply directly the scriptures into our daily lives, versus just reciting the scriptures. Like the preacher normally said, can I ask more? So our purpose is, even when we reach the point where we feel everything is normal, but we still not attached to that normal state, but need to move on, right? We have to continue with the doubt, whether it's normal or not normal. Don't attach to those thoughts, and continue to practice to nourish, to grow the doubt. Kim Yến, please. Dear Master, dear everyone, from the sharing of our Dharma friends, I also want to share my experience so you can give me advice. Yesterday, I was at the temple doing meditation in the afternoon. I remember at that time I was asking the Marto question very clearly before heaven and earth. What was I? When I asked, I fall into the stage. I remember I still was in the asking mode, not in the reciting mode. But when the bell ring, I didn't hear. At that time, my Dharma friends touched on my shoulder. At that point, I feel like somebody is touching my body, so I open my eyes. Then the lady who practiced with me, she told me, it's time to form walking meditation. The bell ring already. Then at that point, I opened my eye and start walking. I was awake at that time. I wasn't sleepy. Did I fall into nothingness or fall into deep sleepiness? That's why I didn't hear the bell ring, because the lady had to touch me a lot of time for me to be aware. Could you give me advice about this? Because your body is tired, that it fall into sleepiness, but we are not sure whether it's motionless sleepiness or deluded sleepiness, because maybe you was deep in the sleepiness, that's why you were not aware. Those effects are normal. Even if your practice is strengthened, you might still experience those effects. Like a student who focus on the study, he might forget eating, sleeping, because he too focused on his study. Even he was not even aware of the time, you know, forget sleeping. So that is the diligence of the student. So for our practice, if we are serious about birth and death, we can experience some of those effects. Or even for the people, maybe they are not too serious about birth and death, but maybe because we just feel encouraged to practice from seeing other people, you know, that is still a good sign. Or sometimes we forget to rest, to eat. We might experience some symptoms or effects. Those are normal, you know. So when you're too tired, you can experience multiple effects. Sleepiness, anxiousness, etc. So those are just effects of our body and mental mind. It's okay. Don't worry about it. At that time when the Dharma friend told me to hurry to the walking meditation, I feel like, oops, I fall into the sleepiness. Did I not practice well? But thanks to your talks over the year, I feel it's okay. I just need to return to the question. But in reality, when I do walking meditation, I feel very awake. I didn't feel tired at all. But thank you so much. Sometimes you might not be aware of your sleepiness, you know. Even for me, when I have to experience jet lag, you know, when I didn't realize until my head hit the table, you know. I didn't feel like tired or sleepiness, you know, but all of a sudden I feel like my head touched the table, and then I have to remind myself to straighten up. No, it's normal. Can I ask another question? If we genuinely have the doubt, consistent doubt, then even if the body experience tiredness, then is it that the body is not even aware of the tiredness but continue to practice, right? So is it that when the doubt reach its ultimate state, then we don't even feel tiredness, right? Yes. When the patriot, a lot of patriot, they normally reach enlightenment near dawn, after they not sleeping for the entire night. Or like Master Ananda, he practiced for 7 days straight until the seventh day, where he completely exhausted, you know, and half sitting, half lying, and then at that point, when it's near dawn, then he reached enlightenment. Or even master, like what I said, some of the people, when they do sitting meditation in the temple, their forms, their posture seem like they fall into sleepiness, but when the meditating stick hit them, they suddenly awakened, you know. Or some people, you know, might experience very little thing that lead them to enlightenment. like if they hear some sound or if they hit a rock, etc. So when once the conditions are complete, then people will reach enlightenment. Or with Master Cao Phong Biên Diệu, he even reached enlightenment in his dream because he practiced in his dream as well. Thank you, Master. It's the time is up as well. Goodbye, everyone. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.